run rate for this tool is like $5,000 a year. And we hit an overage last month that's going to be $37,000. And I hop on the call with the founder, and I'm just expecting like, this dude's going to rake me over the coals. He's going to be like, pay up, or like next month you're going to get a bigger overage. Discount $10,000 off the overage. And my ask to you would be like, can we just sign like a committed agreement for the next year so that we can like forecast a little bit better, and that will help out with future overages and everything like that. And I like finished that call, and I was like, I didn't even think about like the terms that we agreed to. I didn't think about whether like the discount made sense. And so we just like did it. And now that spend is like 10x what we agreed to.
Wow.
Like we're so far deeper into that partnership now. So
Jake, what's up, my man?
What's up, man? Sorry I'm late. It's been a crazy morning.
Don't worry, dude. Good morning, man. How you doing?
Good. How are you, man?
Good, man. Just getting some work done, you know, the usual, dude. Yeah. So
Cracking at it.
Yeah, exactly. And you're in Dallas, right?
I am. Yeah. Where are you at?
I'm in Austin. So.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, dude. We got Texas in the house right now, man.
Yes.
You know, which is great. So
I love it.
it's freaking awesome, dude. Yeah, we got Texas in the house. So, but do you ever come to Austin?
Like every now and then, it's like one of those things that, like, there's 1,000 reasons to do it, and you just got like a family that like bogs you down. But anytime like my wife and I try and get away, it's like Austin's the go-to, you know.
Oh, nice, man. Well, yeah. Next time, next time you're thinking about coming out here, let me know. We'll go wake surfing or something, and we'll figure it out.
Dude.
Like, get on the lake, dude. It'll be fun, man. And if I ever go to Dallas, I'll hit you up, and we got to get some like. You got to tell me the good barbecue spots, you know, because I think Terry Black's is actually out there already now.
Terry
right?
Black's is, yeah. There's a couple places on your way up from Austin that you like pass that are super good.
Yeah, there's like that. The one that was on Netflix. What's what's the gal's name? Pootie? No.
Yeah, Snow Barbecue. I can't remember what her name is.
Yeah. But I like that clip and like from Netflix, like the intro.
Yes.
Pootie or Poonie? I don't know. I'm probably butchering the hell out of this, dude. But
no, you're good, dude.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, so great to be chatting with you. I've got some awesome questions that we're going to go through, prepping for this. Cause I was like, okay, we got to give people the procurement sauce, man. Like
yes.
This is going to be the sauce. Not everyone's going to come to you and be like, hey Jake, buy my product after this pod. Like
what I'm out there for.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, man. But all right. So we're going to have a few questions. I can go through them first. Actually, you know what? We're just going to start, dude. And let's just go through it. It's going to be highly tactical, I think. Is what most people want out of this, because procurement's great, right? It's a most necessary in a lot of companies. But when I was doing research for this, what I noticed is there's not a lot of great tactics out there. It's just like, like don't piss them off, and you're like, well, how do you not piss off procurement? You know, like what's the like? Give me the game plan. Give me the playbook. You know. So let's start off, dude. What is the quickest way to a rep can turn procurement from a gatekeeper to a cheerleader in a 30-second playbook?
A couple things. One, like recognize the value of the role. I think is a big one. And like see that as like you need procurement to help you get the deal done. So to like answer the converse of the question, like what's one way that you can piss me off immediately or like make the deal go sour immediately is like hop on a call and say, I know exactly what you do. Like, I know you're here to negotiate to get the lowest price. And it's like, you don't know me from Adam, you know, like you don't know what my prerogatives are, what my job is. And so it's the same way of like me getting on a call with the sales rep and being like, I know you're here to sell me a used car and like give me a bad deal and screw me over. It's like, that's terrible. And so like come in, understand like, hey, I'm here to like help, and then figure out like, hey, for you, what does the process look like? And just be like a listener. Like I teach my team and I also teach sellers. The best thing that you can do on that first call is say as little as possible and listen as much as possible. So it's like play to the ego. Yeah. Just hop on and just like, tell me about what you do. Tell me about who you report to. How can I help you out? X, Y, Z.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. There's a 30-second playbook. Because I will say, man, like I have heard some sales managers, I won't name people, right? But they'll come and be like, oh, what they teach is like, hey, procurement's just there to get a deal. They're compensated on getting a discount and bonuses based on that. And like, so I can't blame, sometimes you
Totally.
can't blame some sales reps because they're kind of taught that,
Yeah.
they're like, hey, here's really what's going on. And then you kind of come into it a little like, oh shoot, okay, well, like, with your guard up a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Instead of because you're kind of like put in that position by like a manager or someone. um so this is a good way to flip it, dude,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's a lot of like as a seller, and I come from a sales background. Like I was in sales
Yeah.
before I was in procurement, and it's like you got to get the like quota chasing out of your breath, and it's like the same for procurement. Like if there's one thing that has to change in the procurement seller relationship, it's procurement. Like we're discount hunters, we're bargain shopping and stuff like that, and so I think there's a lot of change that needs to happen. Um, but I think some of it's just coming in with like an open hand and an open setting on the table.
Yeah. And I read it like you were at vendor too, so you kind of like vendor does procurement as a service, basically, is the way
Yeah,
I
they started
understand it.
out like truly like negotiation as a service, like getting savings was tied to the SLA at vendor.
Oh wow. Okay. And now you're kind of owning procurement at Vanta in like less than 2 years, which is interesting. So what pain in the buying process like still drives you nuts today? Because you've seen this all over the place.
Yeah, I would say um, one of the things that I've taken a deep dive into is like what slows the deal down the most. And so for a seller, it's like trying to figure out how to close as much revenue as possible in the month. So a lot of it is just like stuff falling off, like both buyer and seller. Like you'll get to that proverbial handshake and you're like, sweet, like this deal is now on the tracks to get done. And it's amazing how much crap falls off after that proverbial handshake of like, we didn't never got a document that we were waiting for. I like sent you a red line like 2 weeks ago and you never responded. I followed up 3 times. Um, and it's also the converse. Like I've had reps send me stuff and I totally forget about it for a week. And they're like, I'm trying to hit my end of month here. Like follow up with me. So it's just one of those things of like poor deal management almost is like the issue.
Yeah.
I think that's probably like the big pain point. I mean, people just coming in like being asses is also like a pain point. Uh,
Yeah.
but I think
Yeah.
both sides are guilty.
And then what's like, okay, so I I think people don't also understand the procurement process like we think we do. Going back to your main point, right? So like, what like can you map, if anything, the exact steps that you run once a new vendor like hits your inbox, right? Like
Yeah,
what's the inner workings of that machine, right? Is it
yeah,
just
yeah.
you, or are you like going and like looking at their website? Are you like looking up their leaders? Like what, give us like the intel that you're actually like going through the exact steps once that's
Yeah.
coming in.
So procurement, like let's just say Andy selling to Jake, like Andy dropping in my inbox. I've already been attached to this deal for like months at this point. Like before my someone at Vanta has like reached out to you, like we've been in talks about like, hey, should we do distribute? Should we do someone else? Should we do Salesforce? Like we're looking, and so let's say like a deal cycle between like I have this inception of I want to buy an AI SDR, like they're coming to me and my team saying like, hey, we're looking at some sort of AI SDR. Do you have any recommendations? And then that's like 2 or 3 months before they're like, hey, we have like a couple vendors that we want to move forward with. And so a lot of it
Oh,
is just like ear to the ground. So
yeah.
2 hours of every week, my team spends like just combing through like TechCrunch, Product Hunt, YC like batches, like trying to find tools that fit pain points that our team have. And so
Yeah.
we're just like ear to the ground on a ton of it. So more often than not, like if someone comes to Andy to buy your product, like I was the one that either recommended it to them or I've been talking about it with them. So I would say that's like a big thing in terms of like process that a lot of people don't know is like most of the time procurement's been involved far before this. If they're really good at what they do, they are. Um, and then from there, it's like the launching off point, right? So it's like I know what's the use case that we're trying to build around. What's the pain point? I also know like how is this tying to like broader business objectives. And so that's more of like where my mind's going. Like you say you want $50,000 to buy an AI SDR. Like, how is that tying to a business objective that we're trying to accomplish? What's your budget look like? And usually, and I like tell sellers this all the time, like if you're talking with procurement, like generally it's a good sign that you're like
At
the
that
vendor of
stage.
choice or you're moving forward.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's like people come into procurement and like going all up in arms. It's like you're in the sweet spot. Like you just got to kind of coax
Play the game.
play
Play
the
the
game
game.
a little bit, yeah, and then
Yeah.
you're on your way to booking revenue. So
That's that and is that like every procurement is kind of like always looking at tools and stuff, or is that how like is that how good procurement is done in your opinion, right? Because that's an insight for me, right? Like,
yeah,
and maybe I'm a dummy, but like I always thought like procurement, you kind of think that they're just like let in the loop once they make a decision. And you kind of just gave me a great insight, which is like, no, dude, like sometimes we're the ones giving it to people and saying, go look at this for your team.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then it's looping back around to us, which,
yes.
yeah,
It's a good question. I think there's like definitely a nuance. Like there's like I am plugged into like these spaces and I like do scouting and investing. So I'm just like always looking at stuff like that. So I would say I'm probably not the norm, but one, like especially at like tech forward companies that are making investments in AI, if they have a procurement team, like generally they're a little bit more modernized than going and working at like EY and they have like procurement person that's been working there for 25 years. But generally like procurement's definitely involved before like the deal actually starts moving. And maybe it's just like, hey, we're going to make this purchase. There's kind of some like approvals that they need to jump through. Um, but like most companies don't allow you to like go searching for a product unless you've had like budget approval, you've had like some sort of IT approval, and that's what kind of like opens the gates to start running down the product journey. And so procurement's generally like involved as early on as like we want to start running down the trail on this to figure out what it looks like.
interesting. And so, almost, do you guys like almost push that, hey, if you're looking or interested in something, come to us first internally and we'll kind of give you like an idea, like if we've looked at it, or we'll kind of do some research for you and all that. Is that kind of like what you guys push internally so you don't get surprises as well, or what's that look like?
Yeah, so like the goal for procurement, I would say, is you're trying to get as much influence as you can, like get as much of a seat at the table as you can. So getting involved upstream is super valuable to that. There's certain orgs and companies that like procurement is absolutely the rubber stamp. Like they don't want to get procurement involved because it slows down. I'd say like those
Yeah.
people are like falling by the wayside and aging out. Um, and then I would say like for like progressive orgs or like people that are leaning more into procurement, it's very much so like get procurement involved as early as possible. One, because that opens up the internal roadblocks from being in front of us. But two, like maybe we're looking at a tool that does exactly what we have, or we have a tool like Vanta, we have over 200 software tools that we use. So it's like there's an
Crazy.
AI workflow tool that maybe our engineering team is using that our GTM team doesn't know about, and they're like shopping around. And so that's where it's like, hey, I want to go try out like a Zap here. And it's like, oh, we actually use Workato AI for like stuff like this. And they're like, oh, great. We don't even have to go through the process. So that's a lot of like what we're trying to say, like get involved as early as possible. And even I tell my team that, right? Like I'm telling them, hey, go be on the ground in those conversations, like plug in really well, keep your ear to the ground internally so that you can actually help people, go through the process a lot more smooth.
Yeah, yeah. And okay, I love it. And okay, this is a good one that I have for you here, which is, what's the biggest deal killer email subject line you've seen this year?
Ooh. um, I can't remember what it was, like what the specific thing was, but it was something to the effect of like, uh, deals almost done, need procurement approval. And it was like someone had heard from like a champion, like, hey, we're good to go. We want to move forward. You just got to go through procurement. And they basically were like sent me an email, and the subject line was like, deal's almost done, need procurement approval. And it was basically saying like, we've worked everything out. All we need is for you to say like you
Yes.
approve, and then we'll handle the rest. And like we don't need to go back. And it was just like, bro, if you think that that's the case, like that's a joke. Like, if anything, now you're like more screwed. Not because I'm pissed, which I am pissed, but like
Yeah.
you've been taking the word of someone that has no idea what they're talking about if they think that like this is the case. And
Yeah.
it wound up being like 3 months after that we like got the deal signed, and it was just like dragging feet, and the head of
Yeah.
sales like hated me by the end of it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it was
yeah, you want to be on procurement's good side. Is basically just and you want to start it early. Like it's kind of what I'm getting here. And what's one of those stories you have like where someone recently maybe has just like been 10 out of 10 with working with y'all, and like what did that look like, right? What's because I think for what I want to get people to get out of this, like what the hell does 10 out of 10 look like,
yeah.
and maybe some good tactics on that. I'm sure you guys have bought, you're always buying stuff, so, and
Yeah.
getting rid of stuff and all that, but like do you even have a 10 out of 10, maybe that you could tell?
I probably have one 10 out of 10 that I've had in the last year and a half.
Okay.
And it's one that, like, I was talking with the guy on my team that handles software procurement, and I was just like, honestly, like, I walked away and I was like, Jake, you probably did a terrible job there. But that experience was just so good that, like, I didn't want to say no, or I didn't want to slow it down. So it's really backward, but I'll give you, like, some context to it. Um, so it was a like AI infrastructure tool that we were using, and basically it's a company called Reducto AI. They just raised this huge $25 million Series A, and our AI engineering team reached out to me and said, "Hey, our run rate for this tool is like $5,000 a year, and we hit an overage last month that's going to be $37,000 for one
Cool.
month." Um, And so I was like, what the heck? Like, we got to figure this out. I'm going to hop on a call with the founder. And this is like their seed stage company, like 5 people on the team. Um, and I hop on the call with the founder, and I'm just expecting like this dude's going to rake me over the coals. He's going to be like, pay up, or like next month you're going to get a bigger overage. Um, and he hopped on the call and he's like, hey, I don't want to like put you in a bad place. I like can explain to you what happened, but I'm just gonna like discount $10,000 off the overage. And my ask to you would be like, can we just sign like a committed agreement for the next year so that we can like forecast a little bit better, and that will help out future overages and everything like that. So normally what would happen in that situation is I would then be like, okay, what's the discount that I need to get that makes like committing annually worth it and all this stuff. And I was just like, yes, like I will absolutely do that right now. And so we went from spending like our run rate was like $5,000 to our run rate was like $40,000. But because he was just like, hey, I realize like this is a bad spot for you to be in. I'm gonna like extend an olive branch, and like, can we work something out? But if not, that's okay. And I
Yeah.
like finished that call, and I was like, I didn't even think about like the terms that we agreed to. I didn't think about whether like the discount made sense. It was just like he was like, I realize you're in a bad spot. We're not gonna like rake you over the coals, and I just want to like figure out how we can make it a win for you guys. We really care about the partnership. Um, and so we just like did it, and now that spend is like 10x what we agreed to. Like we're so far deeper into that partnership now. So
Wow. Yeah, that's good because he came to you. Yeah. So, like, what would you say? I mean, not to get too woo woo and stuff, but like, it just sounds like he was a little bit more empathetic, right? And coming to you and like knowing that like you're gonna have a like this is gonna be annoying for you, right? Like you didn't
yeah,
budget that spend. Now you're like, what the heck? So, like, what would you say? How would you break that down to like, what other people can take from that?
yeah, I think the big thing, and I even teach this to like my procurement team, is when you come
Yeah.
into a call, like go in and like put your ear to the ground and just like listen and like try and understand how it would be from their perspective. So he
Yeah.
knew my cost skyrocketed 10x what it was supposed to be in a single month. It was going to continue skyrocketing. And so whereas like some vendors are like, dude, sorry, like pay it up. He was just like, hey, let's like figure out how we can make this a win for you in like a bad situation. And so yeah, like empathy, but also just like putting yourself in other people's shoes. I did a post about this on LinkedIn a couple days ago, but like some of the most powerful um, sales reps or AMs or CSMs are the people that like get in the boat with their buyer. It's what our VP of RevOps at Vanta says is like, for you to be a really powerful AM or CSM or AE is like get in the boat and like go along the journey with them. Don't make it like us versus you. And
Yeah,
that
I
was one of
like
the things
that.
that we
Yeah.
learn from a procurement perspective. We were at vendor, and I really like taking it to heart is like I use a ton of like second person plural language, us, we, and like I speak about like Vanta's like they and like their company is they, and it's like me and the seller together on the journey. Um, and so if you can come in as a seller and be like Adit, the founder at Reducto, is like, hey, it's Jake, it's you and I, and we're gonna like figure out how to make this a win for you, so that Vanta can win, and like go from there, and totally like in a really great way put me on my ass, and I was like not expecting it. He totally brought my guard down, and I was like, yes, like I'll invest in that. So
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting that you say that because it seems like so simple, but so simple that not many people do that. Because you're saying you're used to people coming back. No, we need to pay. Here's my revenue. Like you guys owe us, right? And it's just
yeah,
like, and for them, it was probably a 10K discount, but their margin on that is probably insane,
yeah, I
right?
still
Like,
wound up paying him 27K on an overage. So it's like I didn't have the best financial outcome either, but it was just
yeah.
because of how he approached it. I loved it.
Yeah, yeah, which and that's probably like it's such a low what's the term? It's low hanging fruit for him, right? It's like 10K for him, like that versus the upside is like just way more, right?
Yeah,
And the trust level and all that stuff. And I think a lot of people forget about like the big theme here is like just when you're selling these deals with companies, like especially if you're a startup, right? Like it's a lot of trust involved,
totally.
right? Because you're not a vendor yet, you're not a gong yet, you're not a, you know, what are some other big go to market? You're not an outreach yet,
Yeah,
my old world, like, and so like there's a lot of like you're playing a game of trust too, and like being easy to work with, like anything, right? And I
yeah,
think that's something that people maybe on the smaller side, they might realize, they might not sometimes realize, or if they're at a startup, right? Like they're making a bet on you, and
totally.
you have to also show them that they can trust you because
Yeah,
you're gonna have to deal with them in 9 more months for a renewal or whatever and all that fun stuff.
and it's all
Yeah,
like relationship building. It's like
yeah,
Gong is a great example. Like we had Vanta grew really rapidly over the last year, unexpectedly. And so we were at a point where we were going to true up for a huge amount on our Gong contract. And we love Gong and have invested a lot. And the rep, like, I just have like a good experience with her. She's great. And so because I had like a good experience, I was like, hey, let's like double down and let's like bake in like the next year worth of growth because like we have a good relationship. And so uh, nothing that like benefited me, but like also the benefit can be for Gong and for her. So it's like I think a lot of people, especially as you get into more of like an enterprise org, it's just so transactional, and like that's the worst thing for procurement. And procurement's really bad at it. Like we make it super transactional, but yeah, those ones that
hmm
like partner is just it's so easy for me to be like, how can I actually invest more money into that partnership because it's worthwhile for me.
yeah, exactly, man. Wow. And another thing that makes me, you saying that, it thinks about is like, um in working with procurement, you think about like what a good rep does, right? What a good sales rep does, and all that. And sometimes this is like the stuff we don't teach these days as much, in my opinion, right? Which is like everything's how do you automate this and how do you automate that and how do you make things quick and get it now, instant gratification versus like the relationship stuff. And I hope we're going full circle on this now, but that's something that I think people need to teach because, like, especially with all the noise out there, it almost stands out just listening, as you mentioned, and wanting to build a relationship with, external stakeholders on something you're selling to them or, a vendor or whatever it may be. And, talking about good reps, I think they understand that if I had to define good, it's not just like, oh, hey, they can pick up a phone and dial or send great cold emails. It's like, no, dude, like they understand, hey, like it's a relationship based thing. I have to build the trust, going back to that whole thing.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, yeah. And I think that needs to be definitely taught more because we're taught all the how to use the tools and how to do this, but not the overarching ideas. Like no deal really gets done without a great relationship and a great champion,
yeah,
like
yeah,
I haven't seen one deal ever really get done. A bigger deal, of course, transactional is a little
totally.
different, but like I've never seen a bigger deal ever get done without a solid champion and a good relationship there, you know?
Yeah. And that's where it's like, that's one of my big kind of evangelisms with procurement is like procurement's such a great champion because that going back to that like core identity that they're trying to build of like a value add, a bigger seat at the table. And so keeping procurement as your champion to be like, hey, we came out with this product. Like, do you guys have this pain point anywhere across the board? And it's like me as a procurement leader, if I can then go to my VP of engineering and say, hey, I was talking with Andy and he said that they're doing this. Is there any like value to that? And they're like, man, Jake is great. Like Jake is addressing the needs that we have even before we ask Jake about it. And that's why it's like procurement's such a good ally for sellers to have because it's kind of, I use the language a lot of like um, procurement's going to kind of be like your trail guide through like the relationship and like let you know where are the stops that you should make, what are the things that you should focus on. And that's where that first meeting comes down is like figuring out for them what's the value. You know, are they trying to get a bigger seat at the table? Are they trying to source more stuff? Are they trying to save more money? Are they trying to move faster? And then being like, hey, how can you help us accomplish those goals?
Yeah.
And like those are some of the best partnerships out there.
Yeah, it's almost like, ooh, I'm coming up with something good here. It's gonna
Give
be
it to me.
like, yeah, it's it's like procurement is like the hidden champion that you didn't, you know, that most people
Boom.
ignore, right? It's the hidden champion,
Yeah.
right? Right.
Yeah.
Or they can be your hidden obstacle if you don't do
Yeah.
it right. But like,
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah.
they can also be your biggest champ, your silent champion, right?
For real.
Silent hidden, whatever we want to say, like but that's what I think what what I'm kind of gathering from this too, on that front. Now, all right, so let's get a little tactical here,
Yeah.
Jake. So if you had to write a 3-slide deck that gets procurement to rubber stamp something in 48 hours, what would go on each slide?
Um, what the pain point that's being addressed,
Yeah.
how it's tying to like the bigger goal, and then how it's scalable. I would say like if you can tell me why your product is solving a pain point, one, I'm going to know whether that's a real pain point or not. And then the scalability piece is like, is this a long-term partnership or is this a short-term partnership? Um, yeah, I would say those are the three ones.
Oh wow. Okay, that's money. Okay, now you're gonna get emails with those 3 pain
I'm fine with
points
that.
coming
I'm
in.
fine with
Yeah. Here they
that.
come.
Yeah, come
They're,
on.
they're gonna come in. Hey Jake, I heard this is what you want. Okay. All right. So I think an interesting thing. All right, now let's talk about this. Budget does not always equal approved spend,
Boom.
right?
Yes.
And so, and this is always something I harped with my teams, right? When we're at outreach and my last company, and it's just like, but just because they have budget, man, doesn't mean it's always approved,
Yep.
right? Like, and so for you, how should reps surface like more latent budget pockets that you'll greenlight, right? Because maybe a team has a budget, but it's not approved yet. So, what's your thinking from
Yeah.
that perspective?
So I would say two things. One, I flip it on the converse. Like just so let's say budget's 30 grand, like that doesn't mean that you can spend 25 grand. I flip it on the converse and say just because budget's 30 grand doesn't mean you can't spend 40 grand. So it's like
Oh,
budget is I don't know, it's a marker on the radar that like tells you where you're supposed to be going, but it's ultimately like not the you're not doing like Google Maps and it's like telling you when to turn and stuff like that. I would say one of the things that I did when I was selling and I do now as a buyer and when I also teach sellers is like do some research on the financial standing of the company. If you have a company that just raised $100 million Series C, they're in a really good spot financially. They're hot. There's investors that are chasing them. They're growing. And so budget's going to be a little bit less of like a restriction versus if you have a company that did like a riff and laid off 20% of the workforce, like that budget's probably going to be a hard number and you should try and come under it. Um, I always say, and this is specific to Vanta, but like we don't let price dictate the decisions that we make. So we try and invest in the best products that solve the best use cases, and we try and invest it at the best price. Sometimes that best price is actually over what we had budgeted to spend. Sometimes it's way less. Um, but I will always approve more budget for something that truly solves an issue. And I'll work with that stakeholder to say, like, hey, what are things that are low ROI that we're not really loving that we can cut out and take that money and like stack it on top and take that 30 grand and turn it to 40 grand. So I would say like knowing the financial standing of your company is going to play into how much you let budget be a restriction. But 95% of the time, I would say like, unless the company's in a really bad spot, budget isn't as big of an issue as I think people treat it. If you have someone that's like asking for a real big discount or they're really not able to hit your budget, it's more of an indication that you haven't like solved the pain point that they're feeling.
Because like if it's big enough, you'll pay anything, right?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
if I can't do something engineering wise, I'll pay 250 grand for an engineer to do it.
Yeah.
Or Cursor, it's like, think about
Cursor's
what
crazy.
Cursor is. It's I'm literally paying like $40 per user per month for someone just to be a little bit faster. And
Yeah.
it's like, if you tell me, hey, I'm gonna have you pay me $1,000 a year for Andy to send 20 more emails, it's like, no, that's a stupid investment.
Yeah.
But if you help me understand, hey, I'm going to have you pay me $1,000 for Andy to increase revenue 20%, it's like then I can start thinking, well, 20% increase in revenue on Andy actually equates out to 500 grand a year, so it's worth me to invest $100,000. So it's like that's what you just got to like dissect the pain point. Don't just let it be so much like paper. Hey, we're going to get it in by this budget and you can do maybe a couple things. It's like, what's the pain point that you feel? I'm willing to pay anything for a painkiller. You know, if you're like trying to give me a vitamin, it's like, I really don't take vitamins, so I'm good. You know?
Yeah. 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 Right. That interesting, man. And like one thing, okay, you see a lot of like different contracts, right? And like how people, and there's this whole trend right now. Who knows if it'll change it? Like seat-based pricing is dead, and you've seen it all on LinkedIn, and agent pricing and seat. What should we do from a business model standpoint? What are you seeing? What's your take on it? And like, have you seen anything actually innovative in the way people are pricing that makes sense? I want to get your take because you're seeing all the different ways companies are trying to do this, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I want to see. I want to hear from like your perspective on all that.
Yeah, I was having this conversation with the founder yesterday. So this is like more detached from my relationship with Vanta, but I mean, you're definitely seeing like a huge decrease in user-based pricing, like flat fee user-based pricing. I know like some of the big LLM players are even like moving away from like license based and moving to like the consumptive model. Um, and so what I was telling this founder is like the consumptive model doesn't work for everything, right? Like let's say you're doing like outreach. It's like it's really hard to do a consumptive model because when you put this like usage-based model on, you're actually de-incentivizing people to use your product because they're always thinking about I'm burning down this bucket that I have and I never want to be done with it. I never want to lose it and pay overages or anything like that. And so that's where it really gets hard for like a sales tool or something that you're encouraging people to use it. And then you have like the user-based pricing that just doesn't scale. Like a great way for you to get a higher net revenue retention is a product that just like escalates the cost as you use it more. And I think the stuff that's really been unique that I've seen is like Zapier does this. You pay like a flat fee to like get access to their platform, and they give you like this really high allotment of credits that's basically like unusable unless you're, running a whole business off of it. And then they give you like free products for like one or two, like they do like AI bots and they'll let you use two bots. But once you want three, like you have to upgrade to the next level. So it's like this terrible, but you like kind of give them a taste of the drug and then they're like,
Yeah,
this is great. Like I want more of this.
I want more.
And
Yeah,
so it's like, we're never going to put you in a place where it's like, you paid more, you're screwed, pay us more now. But it's like, if you want to expand, like you got to put up some cheddar to play the game. Those are models that I really like, where it's like, hey, you can have one size fits all, pay the bill, and you're like good to go. You're never going to spend more than that. But if you want to like grow, we're there to grow. And if not, like no worries. I love those models because it's like, even for like if I'm buying a single license, it's like maybe I try a month where I buy all of it and just like see, and then I can like test it out and like see what works. So I think those are the models that as a buyer I really love because it allows some flexibility.
yeah. And I'm curious. So I'm going to ask you here because we we have deal rooms, right? We're almost like Notion and Canva had a baby
Yep.
for go-to-market teams. And we just launched like our cursor agent where you can chat with it and then build your sales content based on,
Yes.
you're chatting with it, and it'll build basically business cases, anything you need based on your call conversations from Gong or our own call recorder or whatever, right? So you can say, hey, what should I say for Sally here based on our last calls? And it'll literally so the context window, you get that. We won't get too
Yep. Yep.
technical on this call, but our context window is going to be the company data you give us as well as your calls, right? Because that data is gold for reps to make external
Yep.
personalized content, right? To stand out in front of competitors and win rates and all that fun stuff.
Yep.
So for that, I've been because we've been thinking about the pricing model ourselves, right? Where we have page creation, we
Yep.
had then now we have the cursor thing, and we started with this like per user seat model, right? Because that's what I know from sales
Yep.
tech, and I'm like, okay, do what's easy, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like now thinking like, wait, what would be easier for people to say yes to this, but also, help us make money,
Yep.
right? Because we
Yep.
need to make money. And so from a sales tech perspective, like what is your take on this kind of procurement process versus like an engineering or, more technical product like a Zapier? Like, do you think something needs to change there, or, is that kind of harder to measure?
Yeah. I think, like, let's just use distribute as the example, and I'll bill you for
Yeah.
this advising afterward. Um, I would say, like,
Yeah. uh, Invoice me, bro. Invoice
yeah, yeah.
me.
I would say if I was building the pricing model at distribute, what I would say is like, uh, if I pay, let's say, $50 per user per month, let's just say 500 per year. 500 per year for me to get access to distribute. I can build like as many deal rooms as I want. And I can get intent data from Gong and email or something like that. So that's like package $500 a month. I would then say, hey, we're going to give you access to the cursor thing, but I'm only going to allow you to run it on 2 deals. So you can
Ooh.
choose what 2 deals you want. And when that deal closes, you can take it back and run it up. But if you want to run it on 2 to 15 deals, you got to pay $20 per user per month. If you want to run it on unlimited deals, you got to pay $50 per user per month. And then I would say, like, add in the additional data points. Like, we're going to do Gong, we're going to do Granola, we're going to do LinkedIn, we're going to do people clicking on the page, we're going to be able to push that info to Slack. And like every one of those is like a bucket. You can get like Gong, Slack, and LinkedIn for another $50 per user per month. Like, those are the things that I think,
Interesting.
even from a buying
Okay.
perspective, it allows me to know what my flat fee is. Like, if we just say no one can touch anything, we're going to pay $500 a user a year. Maybe when we want to try out the cursor aspect, we're going to let it go to 10 people can do 10 deals per year. And then it's like, it allows me to scale up or scale down. And what happens is, if the product's built really well, which I know yours is, like, I'm going to get a taste of everything. And by the end of the year, the whole thing, I'm spending $1,500 per user because all of it's great. And all of it is like a huge selling piece, and it's making the buyer journey better. And I'm going to Jake or my head of RevOps and I'm saying, hey, we're increasing pipeline by 30%. That's $30 million a year. Like, this is an easy ROI for us to spend another 150 grand.
Yeah. Yeah. And dude, something you mentioned that's interesting. You also kind of like lay out all the value points, right? And it educates them on like what you're actually giving, right? Or what you're
Exactly.
providing, right? And like because this user see it's like, oh, all in one, right? And it's like, oh, here it is. And you're like all in one. And you're kind of like, okay, I get it. It has all this stuff. But when you kind of break it down, you kind of like, you put value onto it, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, here's why we're charging that. And you can kind of walk through each item. And it almost teaches buyers like, oh, I didn't even know you could do that. That's like a huge
Exactly.
value add, right? So that's super interesting from that perspective. Okay, I'm gonna have to go do my homework now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna plug this call into
Yeah. Yeah.
distribute, and I'm like, all right, let's redo our
Exactly.
pricing.
I love
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, man, that is interesting. Okay, I like that. So it's almost like breaking out your pricing, and from a procurement perspective, if it's valuable, you don't really care if it's
Yeah.
not all in one, like, right? Because I think the other thing that a lot of people believe, and I could be wrong here, is that like procurement's like all in one is the best. Like give me all in one and make it the easiest and do all that, right? And like what I'm hearing here is no, if you can show like why you break things out and why they're valuable, like we're willing to pay more
Yeah.
from that perspective. Yeah.
And it's like ROI is ultimately like top tier. So it's like if my team uses distribute and they really love the cursor aspect and they saw on those two deals that it closed 10% faster, it like allows me to be like, hey, the ROI is proven here. Let's like full on go into it. And then it helps me like be like, hey, this was a good investment for us to make because it leads to, 10x the amount of closed one that we can do. And so, yeah, it's like, I mean, from a cost perspective, yeah, it's great to know the max that we could ever pay is, $100,000 a year. But ultimately, like, it's just going to lead to kind of the deal being like flat, the ROI being flat. Like, you almost kind of want to leave some room for growth, leave some room to spend more to like get more ROI and validate all of
Yeah, it's almost like that. And it always comes back to how the gurus back in the day talk about like the value ladder,
it. Yep.
and they're like, start here, get them hooked on it, then give them the free thing,
Yep.
right? And then after the free thing, give them the like low ticket item, and then the medium, and then the high, right? And
Yeah.
like because that's how people want to buy, because you need to build trust with it. It goes back to this trust factor thing. They want to build trust first. Okay, free, no skin off my back, whatever,
Yep.
cool. Then yeah, we'll spend a little. Oh wow, this is valuable. We need the next thing and the next thing. So it's funny. And these copywriting guys came up with this back in the day, right?
Yep.
The info product guys, and it
Exactly.
like,
Yep.
and it still like rings true even for SaaS.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like it's PLG at its finest, but no one thinks about like everyone thinks about the HubSpot PLG of like you start with the freemium, then you move to paid. But no one thinks about like what's the PLG from like bottom tier to top tier? Like how do you get them to like walk up the ACV to become an
mm,
enterprise customer? Outside of like I have need SSO and I'm gonna have to pay it. Like how can I go from I'm doing the minimum tier of distribute to like by the end of the contract I can't live without all the bells and whistles and like crush it from there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. Okay, you're giving me a lot to think about, man. A lot to think
Like I
about.
said, the bill is coming.
Yeah, the bill's coming. You're gonna invoice me, man. Okay. Great. Next question I have for you because I'm super interested. You did some Perplexity. You worked at Perplexity or did like a fellowship there or something, or kind of did
Yeah.
some work with them, right? And so you're deep in the AI game as well.
Yes.
Or like you have your pulse on it pretty well. How's AI, like how are you using it today for procurement? And then like how do you think it's gonna rewrite like the procurement process in like the next 2 to 3 years? Right?
Yeah. I think the biggest area that procurement stands to be like disrupted by AI um, is in like the operation side of it. So I think you see like pricing intelligence, like that's an aspect of it, or negotiation, like that's an aspect. But I think procurement ultimately feels the same way that like sellers do, where like Andy doesn't want AI closing deals for him. Like you want your customers to see your
No.
face and to feel your,
Yeah.
expertise and stuff like that. So I think procurement's the same. I think
Yeah.
more of what it is, there's a product out there. It's called Dust. It's a Paris-based AI like workflow company. The website is dus.tt. Um, and their whole thing is around leveraging like AI workflows to kind of like create your own agent that isn't like agentic. It's not like you tell it to do something and it does it, but it's like kind of like a Zapier or Workato or Gumloop or something where it's like you get some sort of trigger and it like runs a bunch of processes for you. I think that's like where procurement really stands to be disrupted is like leveraging AI to do those menial tasks that I do 35 times a day. Like the amount of time that one of the things that like rules my life is like DocuSign, like routing contracts for signature. And it's like, how has AI not been created? Maybe I just don't know about it, but like to where when I say like, all right, I'm gonna send this for signature, like AI just takes that and sends it for signature. And
Yeah, because
so
it's
I
all the
think,
same fields, right?
yeah,
You gotta
exactly.
still
It's like,
put the box on, and
yeah,
then like
you're
you're
dragging
like,
it
what?
around. Someone's name is in the wrong spot. And
Yeah.
so I think that's where I think that's true for like sales. I think that's for everything. I'm deep into the AI world. We like invested a ton of time last year into AI, and Vanta's investing a ton of time into AI right now. And so I've probably spent a couple hundred hours over the last 6 months or so. And the stuff that's crazy is like the truly like agentic stuff where you're like training an AI worker to, like, I had someone that showed me something the other day. Um, and it's, you basically like train an AI worker to do like procurement operations for you. So like when a deal's approved, it like goes and takes the price and like puts it in your spreadsheet, and it goes and sends the DocuSign, or it goes and notifies the buyer like, hey, this deal's closed, here's the terms. Um, that's the stuff that I'm just like, 2 years from now, like I won't hire a procurement ops person to handle like each category of spend. Like I'll have one agent that's like managed by a procurement ops manager, and then the agents like do a ton of different stuff.
Wow. Wow. So you're bought in. You're like, yeah, this is gonna take some like stuff off the table for from a human doing it, right? But then
Yeah.
it'll also create more opportunities for humans
Yeah. I
too.
think that's like, everyone's so worried that AI is going to take your job. And there's
Yeah.
probably jobs out there that it is. But like for my job, or like, you're in my job, like I don't think it is. It's going to take the stuff that we hate doing every day and like do it for us. And then we're going to
Hmm.
get to focus on like bigger stuff. So as I've
Yeah.
had conversations with founders from like an investing side, I more talk about like, everyone's worried that AI is going to like try and take the risky stuff. And the people that are really like the first movers are the people that are saying, let's let AI take the super low risk stuff. Let's let it like categorize your emails for you, or to like mark tasks done in Asana. Not like close a deal and like send a contract that's negotiated over, or something like that.
Yeah, like yeah, the simple stuff. And it's I always give this analogy. It's like, when Instagram came out, and in 2011 or 10 or something like that, everyone's like, "Oh my god, like there's going to be no more photography jobs, and photographers are screwed because now everyone can post a picture online and put a cool filter, and like now photographers are going to not have a job." And guess what? It just made way more photographers, right?
Yes, and
It,
made really great photographers way more money.
exactly, right? And I think that's the like, same kind of thing, is like people who are already kind of great and good at the jobs are going to be, it's going to create a lot of definitely, new jobs for all this AI stuff, data centers. We can go into all of it, but like all that, and then at the same time it's going to make people who are good even better, which, like that's what I'm thinking. And allow them to, instead of your A plus generalists or top performers, instead of them being able to do the output of 10 people as they do already, they'll be able to do 20 now, like I think that's more where it's going. And um if we want to play doom and gloom, I do think the doom and gloom is to not learn it or do anything with it, right? Like that's the thing, like learn to do it, and I think you'll be fine, and use it and to be more productive and all that. So yeah, man. Okay, so last thing I want to ask you here, Jake, is um we've got the Mexican Day of the Dead, theme here and distribute. So I always gotta end with this, which is like, give the people listening a muy bueno line they can drop in their next pricing call with procurement that'll make them smile, not sigh. What do we got?
Ooh, ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Um, if you could drop in on a call with me, Andy, and be like, "Hey, Jake, I built in the scalable pricing for the next renewal, like so that you don't even have to worry about it." That's going to be like, okay, Andy's like thinking 5 steps ahead. He's thinking long-term partnership. Like he's thinking about the renewal. He's thinking about how do we continue for year 2, year 3. And even like, it's not you being like, hey, I want to negotiate. It's just like, hey, I want you to know that I'm thinking long-term on this, but I'm also helping you out. I'm going to do something you're going to ask me to do anyway. Like, it's going to be one of those things I talked about at the beginning where it's like, you kind of knock me on my ass. I'm like, whoa, that's like such a good, thoughtful approach to this partnership approach, but also like seeing the value that I bring to the table. Even if I don't love the price, I can be like, dang, like Andy's thinking long term about this.
Wow.
There
Okay.
you go.
That's good, dude. That's good. Because most people are so worried about the now, that like they don't think about that, right? And
Yeah.
my initial thought of that would have been like, ooh, do they think I'm being a little too confident here? You know, like already talking about the renewal, but it sounds like no. The way you present is like, hey, we're thinking long term here, just to make your life easier. No, we're not gonna building trust, right? We're not gonna
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
renewal try and screw you or something. Let's already get that done too. You
Yep,
know.
exactly.
Interesting. Okay, okay, dude.
Secret sauce.
So many gold nuggets in here. Like,
I love it, dude.
this
This
is
is fun
great. I
stuff.
hope everyone listens to this, man. But dude, hey, it's been so great, Jake.
Likewise.
I'll let you go, man. Dude, this is great. What we'll do on our side is we'll get it. My editor edits it. We will get it out. Tell you before we promote it, all the fun stuff. And then make some clips and all that. And then, yeah, dude, I'll promote it to my newsletter and all that. But dude, also if you're ever in Austin, freaking let me know next time you come
Yeah.
down and we'll go get some Terry Blacks or something.
Yeah, yeah. Likewise, dude.